What's up, YouTube fans? Today we're going to do a comparison of the FansToys Variator with the Badcube Grump, both versions of a Masterpiece scale gears. So this was actually sent to me for this comparison by Ricky G. Thanks, Ricky, for allowing me to take a look at this. And these actually came out quite a few years apart. This is from 2017, early 2017. This is from September 23, so over 6 years apart. Which is a big difference, especially with engineering changes, stuff like that. But I know there's people that still really enjoy this figure and asked me to do this comparison. And as I always mention with these comparisons, I try to be as objective as possible. But of course, there's subjectivity involved when you're comparing figures like this. So if I pick one and you prefer the other, then you win. I really try to do these comparisons to help people decide what direction they want to go with in their collection. With that being said, let's get started. We'll start with accessories. All right, and there are all the accessories they come with, and some similar ones here. They both come with the welding torch here, although the FansToys is done in a nice die-cast piece. They both come with a blaster done in a metallic blue paint. And the FansToys comes with a second gun, which actually combines with the first gun. And the Badcube comes with a little cassette, which was used in that one episode. It's the one thing from that one episode where they used it to change his personality. So we'll count those. And we're left with 5 faces from FansToys. You get all these alternate faces. We're going to give accessories over to FansToys. Next, we'll talk about the gimmicks on these two. And they basically have the exact same gimmick. You can open up the chest here, and you can see the personality unit and all of his inner workings from the one episode. And Badcube also has that inner workings. Not as well detailed and painted, but they do have it here. You can actually take the little tape and it can go in there. All right, next let's take a look at the cartoon accuracy. In order that, we'll put the G1 image there so you can take a look. And I think FansToys really nailed the look here on the cartoon. They just, from all angles and all sides, they really got it. It's just very well done. Now, let's also talk about the sculpt here. And FansToys is really clean, pretty much from everywhere, with the exception to maybe the tires back here. But Badcube, you got really a lot of kibble and pins and pegs and screw holes and gaps. There's just a lot going on. So I'm going to give Sculpt as well over to FansToys. I think they just nailed it with this character. They really captured the guy here. Now let's talk about the paint on these two figures. In order to do that, we'll just point out the paint. The FansToys is pretty much 100% painted, with the exception to this piece of plastic here, but it's got some metallic paint behind it. But other than that, fully painted. The Badcube version does have a little bit of paint. You got a silver paint here on the face, on the sides, on the chest here, the thighs here, and then a little bit of red paint on the toes. And that's pretty much it in robot mode. So we're going to give paint over to FansToys. They just always do a really good job. And this one is exceptional just because of the way it shines. Next, we'll talk about the build quality on these two. And the FansToys really has quite a bit of diecast. It's kind of a hefty figure for the size. And it's very solid. You know, there's no loose parts. Badcube, also pretty solid. There aren't any loose parts. It doesn't have as much diecast. There's a little bit here down in the toe, but overall it's a much lighter figure. It is also smaller in terms of the scale. But I don't really have any issues. It's, you know, nice tight joints. It doesn't, you know, flop around or anything. Everything's nice and tight. So I'm going to give them a tie on the build quality. But I will say I prefer the feel of the FansToys personally. But we'll give them a tie here. All right, next we'll take a look at the articulation. In order that we'll articulate each one individually. The FansToys has a peg and a hinge for the head, so the head goes up to there. You can go a little bit of side to side on it, rotates all the way around, and you can kind of lift it up and down on that joint, so you get some movement there. Shoulder rotates all the way around on a friction, up to there on a hinge, rotation at the bicep, double jointed elbow. Wrist rotates, single pin for the fingers. You have a waist rotation. Ab crunch gets you down to there. The hip skirts will move out of the way and allow you to kick the leg up to there. back to there on a ratchet, out to the side on friction, rotation at the thigh running universal. Double jointed knee gets you the full bend. And coming down to the feet, you have ankle tilt, no forward and backward movement there. For the Badcube, the head just rotates around. It doesn't go up and down, it doesn't go side to side. It's basically just swivel. The shoulders are on a hinge and a ball joint, so they do go up and down like this, and then you get a little bit more movement, but it basically gets up to there due to the sculpt, which is about the same, even though it's got that extra joint. You get a little bit of a butterfly due to the ball joint there. It does rotate around on the ball joint, and it goes up to there. You have a rotation at the bicep. Single jointed elbow gets you a little over 90 degrees, but it's a single joint. You don't have a wrist rotation on this one, and you don't have a opening fingers. So this one is definitely less articulated at the hands and the elbows. Rotation at the waist. You don't have an ab crunch on this one. Legs go up to there, back to there, out to the side, all on friction. Rotation at the thigh, running universal. You have a double jointed knee, but due to the sculpt, you can only get 90 degrees out of it. So I'm not going to give them that. It is there, it's just you can't use it. So it's not really a double jointed knee. And then coming down to the foot, it's on a ball joint. Ball joint. So you get side to side, forward and backward. So you actually get a little bit extra movement out of this foot. But because of the lack of double jointed elbows, lack of hand movement, lack of ab crunch, I'm going to give articulation over to FansToys. Pretty easy for me. All right, next we'll talk about the transformation and engineering on these two. And this one is where FansToys actually did a really good job. The transformation is really fun, very intuitive. I actually flipped it back and forth a couple times just for fun, not for a review. This guy, definitely not as fun. It's got a lot of little panels and things, and also just not as intuitive overall. There are some bits that you want to be careful with, but yeah, I just don't enjoy the transformation on the Badcube. Same for the engineering. I think FansToys was able to engineer a relatively clean bot in both robot and vehicle mode, which is impressive. This one, it does have some kibble, so I'm going to give engineering over to FansToys as well. All right, and here they are in their vehicle modes, and two very different takes. FansToys obviously went for the straight tune look, and by the way, we'll put the image up there. The Badcube went with more of a realistic style vehicle, kind of like a Jeep. And I do like the front grille on the Badcube and the headlights, and also on the back, the taillights look pretty nice. The FansToys, the rear just looks like, part of the legs. But I think where Badcube kind of failed, there's a couple things. One is the windows here. They really should have just tinted those or painted those black, because you can see all of the hinges and the parts inside. It's pretty unsightly, especially if you're looking through and you see blue and red parts in there. And the other thing is there's some hinges and hardware showing up on the side, and that's a little bit unsightly too. I also like the chrome wheels with the rubber tires. It just gives it a different feel as far as the vehicle is concerned. The plastic tires, they look okay, but they just don't feel as premium. And then overall, as just a vehicle, it just feels very, I don't know what the word is, but it just doesn't feel like a premium masterpiece toy. So while I like the realistic approach that Badcube took, overall, I'm going to go with the FansToys on the Ultimate here. By the way, they do both store their weapon. The Badcube you can take and store on the back here. Just plug in right there. And then the FansToys you can take and plug in here, which actually, you can break it into two and store it, or you can have it as one like this. Either way, they both have storage. And next we'll talk about the cost on these two figures. The FansToys comes in at $130. Badcube comes in at $76, which was the reissue in 2021. So Badcube's going to win on the cost. Next, we'll talk about the members' choice category, where I asked my members which one they prefer just based on their own personal preference, no other factors, and you can see that FansToys is going to win the Members' Choice category. So final thoughts on this comparison, you can see the score, and FansToys is going to absolutely destroy Badcube in this comparison. I'm not all that surprised. To be honest, I had actually never handled this figure. I don't think I've reviewed it. So I wasn't really sure what to expect. Once I got it in hand though, and thanks once again to Ricky for sending this, I knew they were going to lose, because it just, the engineering and the overall design, overall, feel of this guy, it does just feel a little bit outdated. And that's kind of what it is, 6 years old. So, but for those that really like the aesthetic of the Badcube, I can kind of get his charm. Me personally, though, I am definitely going to stick with the FansToys for my collection. But that's it for today. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.